The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hi there, and live from Studio 27 in Sacramento, California, and from our panelists in Chicago, Illinois, and welcome to today's webinar, Leverage 5 Trends for Reaching New Hotel Customers, sponsored by Hotel F&B Magazine and WebAttract, your end-to-end solution provider for informational webinars. Hi, I'm Mike Agron. I'm a co-principal and the executive webinar producer with WebAttract, and I'm going to be one of your host and your moderator for today's session. And we really want to thank you for taking the time to join us, as we're very excited about today's topic. And to get started, we'd like to tell you a little bit about who's here. And today's webinar is really for companies who serve various parts of the hotel F&B market and are looking for insights on what are some of the key trends in 2011 and are either currently using webinars as a demand creation vehicle or just curious to know if and how webinars could fit into your go-to-market plans. So in just a moment, I'm going to be introducing our two thought leaders from Hotel F&B Magazine, and they're going to discuss what they see as the 5 key trends for 2011 and some ideas on how you can use webinars to grow your top-line revenue. And like any publisher, they're always looking for ways to bring more value to their marketing partners, advertisers, and readers. And that's why Hotel F&B Magazine and WebAttract are hosting this webinar today. So here's the agenda. Here's how we're going to proceed. Just a moment, as I said, I'm going to bring on Jeanne Bischoff, who's the co-founder, vice president, and publisher of Hotel F&B, to officially welcome you and talk about some of the exciting things that are going on in the industry. And then we're going to go and introduce Michael Costa, who's the industry relations editor for the magazine. And he's going to talk about 5 key hotel food service trends that are ideal for growing your top-line revenue. Then I'll be back to give you a little bit of an insight on what would a sponsored webinar deliverable look like, how do you get started, and then we're going to have some time to take your questions. And we actually want to take as many questions as possible, and I'll tell you about that in just a moment. You know, when it comes to managing webinars, as you'll learn, you might already be aware, when they're done right, they can be a very, very effective vehicle that helps you listen, engage, and educate your prospects and customers. And more importantly, what we found is it's a real terrific way to get prospects and customers into a one-on-one conversation. And it's really not until you get them into a one-on-one conversation that you can determine if you can have a business relationship and how you can add value to them. And I think it's safe to say in sales, nothing really happens until you have an introductory conversation. What we'd like to know is, from a motivation standpoint to do a webinar, which of the following would be your motivation to do a webinar? I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. And if you would just click on all that apply, let's share the results. And very interesting, in order, 100% of you are looking at webinars to produce fresh new sales leads. The same 100% are looking for webinars as a way to raise your brand and product awareness. 50% are interested in using them to boost your thought leadership. 25% accelerate deals in the sales funnel, and 25% for other purposes. That's very helpful. We appreciate it. Well, the good news is that's what today is really about, is to tell you how to raise fresh new sales leads. So I want to start with our first panelist, and that is Jeanne Bischoff, who's the co-founder and vice president and publisher of Hotel F&B Magazine. And she's going to officially welcome you and provide a brief overview of how you can leverage their thought leadership and brand to augment or extend some of your go-to-market programs, particularly in 2011. Now, for those of you that are familiar with the magazine, you know who she is. She is the co-founder, the vice president, and publisher, where she currently oversees publishing and editorial operations. Prior to this, she worked in marketing and sales for Chicago-based prepared foods and dairy record magazines. And in 1992, she founded an independent publishers representative company. And for the next decade, she sold advertising for over 20 business-to-business print magazines, including National Geographic Traveler, Rodale's Backpacker magazine, and the American Hotel and Lodging Association's Lodging magazine. So she knows from where she speaks. She's got the experience in the trenches. And under her leadership with Hotel F&B, the print, website, and electronic circulation has grown from 0 to an estimated 150,000 resort and casino food service professional services worldwide. Jeanne, absolutely delighted to have you to join us on the webinar. I'm now going to turn the microphone over to you.
Great, thanks, Mike. This is my first time presenting for a webinar, and I'm glad and appreciative that all of you, the members of our audience, decided to join us today. We have put significant tender, loving care into this presentation to make it really relevant and interesting to your particular marketing goals within the hotel food service segment, and I sincerely believe that you'll find it worthwhile. Before we start, let me introduce Hotel F&B Magazine, Hotel F&B Online, and give you just a quick overview of the market. Hotel F&B is the only magazine and website exclusively devoted to lodging food and beverage professionals in hotels, resorts, casinos, cruise lines, spas, luxury, and any commercial facility that is providing a home-away food service, meaning an overnight or multiple day food service experience. And our goals and mission involve being in touch with the market at all levels. We conduct many inquiries over the course of the year into best practices in hotels around the country and globally. We preside over 2 industry advisory councils that give us considerable current and ongoing insight into our market segment. And that means that we collect the best practices at all industry levels. We are very on top of strategies and current trends within the unit levels of hotels, and we help our readers make more informed decisions. And this is important because we bring this expertise and knowledge into the webinar planning process to make the events that we might do in partnership with marketers like yourselves extremely authoritative and very relevant to hotel food and beverage buyers. To dig a little bit deeper into the market, the reason that we introduced this visual is to show you the newest and most authoritative Technomic data. Technomic is a very well-known consultancy, good reputation, based in Chicago for food and beverage around the country. And this is their data from a couple of months ago, most updated, that shows that the lodging segment is a sizable part of the food service pie, particularly as related to the non-commercial side of food service, meaning basically anything other than restaurant service. As you see in this visual, the lodging segment is larger than any of the other non-commercial segments that Technomic identifies. Not all of those non-commercial segments are in here, but the major ones are. But that means that hotel food service at $32.5 billion in retail sales is larger than any non-restaurant, non-commercial segment, and that means more sales opportunity for you in a very vibrant market. Now, to go deeper into this piece of the pie for the lodging segment, here's another visual, and it gives you an idea of the opportunity within our segment. This is relevant because you can see here that banquet and catering is the largest single revenue opportunity area in hotel food service at approximately $13.5 billion annually. But hotels also are working obviously with restaurants, full service restaurants. Then we've got outlets of various kinds, snack bars, lobby kiosks, complimentary breakfast buffets, poolside service, lobby grab-and-go opportunities, bars and lounges, room service. So this is relevant because it not only is obviously breaking down the various food service areas in hotels that you could target a webinar around, but also it shows you the various opportunities that there are for your products in any given hotel or hotel chain. So some of our advertisers and clients that we currently do business with are on this slide, and these are the fellow marketers that are representative of today's audience. So you see that you are in the company of many leading brands. Part of our value proposition it's very important. One of our major goals at Hotel F&B is to add value and demonstrate return on investment and accountability for our customers' marketing programs. And we know that 84% of marketers use webinars for lead generation, and 75% have increased the frequency of webinars in the past year. And we know this, and we also know from prior experience. We first became interested in webinars and what they could do for our vendors when we were asked to execute such an event a couple of years ago for a Fortune 500 company. And we did conduct a successful event. And this particular company was interesting because I saw how they viewed webinars, and they viewed them to be kind of their own secret weapon marketing tactic. And I saw firsthand hundreds of sales leads that they attracted. I saw metrics. They were able to position themselves as experts. And they held the stage and communicated a message very effectively, which is difficult, even in a personal sales situation. So when I saw this a couple of years ago, I became very interested in replicating this format and offering it to other food service marketers and the people that we already work with. And so what we decided to do was partner with an expert producer. We sought that out. We did a lot of research, and one that with someone that would complement our knowledge and our content creation, and we chose WebAttract. So how we see sponsors benefiting from webinars. I mentioned this in the previous slide, and specifically what we see is the opportunity to reach difficult to locate, find, and call on hotel buyers, because it's a very far-flung industry. It's difficult for reps to get into all these different locations and have one-on-one meetings. Obviously, that means new sales leads, raising product and brand awareness. Increasing thought leadership and expert positioning, really, really good for this. And I've seen this before in the example I referenced earlier. Also, measuring event metrics and return on investment, very, very good for that. And then the archival opportunities and the opportunities that we are going to offer to view this on a long-term basis post live event. Very, very interesting. And additionally, and finally, we manage all of the logistics, which means that it's easy on your staff, it's easy on your time, and it can be viewed anywhere in the world on a Mac or a PC. On the other side of the coin, when we developed this program, we thought about our readers, and we wanted our hotel buyers, who are our print readers and our website visitors, to really learn a lot from these events and value them highly as an extension of the magazine brand. So our goals are to present best practices from subject matter experts relating to particularly to innovative case studies. We find that works particularly well, and our readers want resources that help them to be in the know with trends, to make more informed decisions for developing new menus or supervising kitchens or back of the house areas, for operating profitable outlets of all kinds. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So our agenda is to discuss some of the top trends, as we've said, identify the implications for you, explore some successful programs that might be executed, and how we can translate those ideas into attractive productions that will showcase your products. So to take the discussion to the next level, I'm going to hand it back to Mike.
Thanks, Jeanne, and we'll have you back in just a moment. And now we're going to hear from Hotel F&B Industry Relations Editor Michael Costa, and what he's going to do is share his 5 food service trends that we absolutely believe can help you grow your top line revenue. We're going to bring Jeanne back to be part of this discussion too, and we're going to talk about what are the trends, what are the opportunities, and what are some of the webinar topics that we've thought of in brainstorming that you might want to consider. So Let me give you a little background on Michael. He spent more than 5 years moving from city to city as a TV news reporter in the 90s. And as a journalist, he decided to steer his career more towards the kitchen. So he returned to his hometown in Chicago. He attended culinary school. And while working in the pastry and banquet kitchen of a large downtown hotel, he later joined that property's F&B purchasing department. So today he combines all of his experience as the industry relations editor at Hotel F&B magazine. And absolutely thrilled to have you with us, Michael. So welcome to the webinar, and I'll turn it over to you, and let's start jumping in to talk about the different trends.
Great. Thanks, Mike, and thanks, everyone, for joining us. Our first trend today is in banquets and catering. And a lot of, actually many hotels, much of their revenue comes from banquets and catering. It's a huge, huge revenue generator. And in the economy that we are emerging from during that economy, a lot of hotels had to bend over backwards and offer amenities as part of, at no charge to their group clients in order to keep their business. Because without the business, that huge chunk of revenue goes away. And so now that we're emerging from the economy, from that particular economy, these clients are expecting these things to be they don't expect to pay for them anymore. And so a trend you're going to see going into next year is hotels are going to continue bending over backwards for their group business in order to keep that group business. And some of the ways they're doing that are through themed interactive meeting breaks. And if you look at the photo here of the gentleman in the banana suit, that's a particular hotel in Hartford that does a banana break, and so it goes as far as the staff member dressing up as a banana, and the client loves it. Another part of this trend are custom meals and action stations, especially for events. A lot of the work that you would normally see in the back of the house is being done in the front of the house now, because the guest is much more food and beverage savvy, and they like to see those things. And also for those same types of events, enhanced decor and setups. And so for weddings or for gala events, a lot more elaborate tabletops and glassware and chairs and linen and all those things, all the little details that make the event special. Yep, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think you were going to probably want to bring up what are some of the opportunities and some of the topics. Was that your next thought?
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. Well, let me advance the slide and bring Jeanne back to talk about some of the opportunities and just some of the ideas of possible webinar topics. So, Jeanne?
Oh yeah. Well, we were just brainstorming about possible webinar ideas, and by no means are topics limited to the list below. I mean, this is just to get the creative juices flowing. What I will say is, all of you have resources for hoteliers. They might be recipes, videos, trend research, corporate consultants, corporate chefs, or tech experts that you offer for your customers' edification, customer testimonials, and many other tools that help your buyers and customers make favorable buying decisions and to serve them. And those tools can be deployed in many topics, including some of these that we have listed here. And these are all on trend. Adding ethnic flavors to your banquet menus, banquet-ready side dishes for consistency and labor savings, small plate tableware and serving ideas for family-style banquets. Now, it's just an example for that one I just mentioned. I just visited with a customer recently that had just completed a photo shoot, and they make tableware and beautiful tableware and buffetware. And they had just completed a photo shoot, and they were putting all these images on a DVD. And I said, you should present this, at a webinar, and bring in a customer who's used some of your products to create these beautiful buffets, and it would just be extremely powerful. So using various, getting the creative juices flowing to either pull in decor elements or developing new types of interesting menu programs would be of great interest to hoteliers.
Great. Thanks, Jeanne. So, Michael, let's jump into the second trend, which is upping the ante at breakfast, and I'll let you take it.
Sure. At just about every hotel, breakfast is the number one day part as far as food and beverage goes. It's the highest capture rate. It's usually around 90%. And so what you're going to see and continue seeing into the next year is hotels sort of refining their approach to breakfast and finding out what it is that their target customer wants. And so sort of at the higher end full service hotels are reinventing their brunch and making it much more elaborate, appealing to a higher end clientele. And in some cases, they're actually taking a successful brunch and moving it to Saturday, which is normally not a real successful day from a food and beverage standpoint, because it's just a successful template. In the select service and limited service hotel category, there's a lot of competition now for complimentary breakfast. And actually going back into later last year and certainly through 2011, you can take a look at almost any limited service or select service hotel brand, and they have reinvented their complimentary breakfast program. And also part of that is that it's not just that they're putting out a hot complimentary breakfast, they're also creating an atmosphere, sort of a higher end cafe where the guests can enjoy it in something other than just a table and chairs. And so, Jeanne, what are some of the opportunities that you see here for breakfast?
Well, breakfast, like you said, it's such a huge day part that we could take this in so many different directions. One personal experience that I just saw out in the field recently is in a recent meeting with a leading food service manufacturer that makes prepared sauces. They developed this beautiful DVD with their corporate chef, and it was on breakfast menus. And what they did is they really tied into the trend. They developed basically an egg dish, and it was the same ingredients, but they put one recipe had an indulgent spin on it, and they used the prepared hollandaise sauce, and the other recipe had a healthful spin on it, and they used the Latin red chile sauce for that recipe, and that would make a great demo to talk about for a webinar for perhaps their chef to talk about that presentation and bring in a customer who's used this as a tool. So you might have the same kinds of tools that you could showcase to work with some of the other topics that we've listed here, just a very few of them, but creating breakfast wraps and sandwiches that guests will love. Looks like we're missing a couple words there, but that's a very on-trend thing right now. Breakfast sandwiches and interesting wraps, on the breakfast buffet. Indulgent breakfast items to boost checks. That's just huge, as Michael mentioned. Easy storage, easy preparation, and easy serve menu items for complimentary breakfast buffets. A lot of these are limited service hoteliers. They don't know food and beverage service as well as they need to going forward. And additionally, the last thing, sprucing up the look of the buffet, same thing. I mean, a lot of these people don't necessarily know how to present the food properly, and they would very much welcome expert advice and guidance.
Thanks, Jeanne. Michael, let's go to the third trend, which is beyond grab and go. And then, folks, we are also going to, at the end of the fifth trend, give you the reach of the potential audience that we can bring to you. So, Michael, I'll let you take this one.
Sure. Lobby food and beverage is becoming very niche-driven, and you'll see that going into 2011 as well. The lobby F&B spaces are multi-purpose, which means they can have a breakfast there, and then through a bit of decor change, they can turn it into a lunch or an evening type of setting, but it's essentially the same staff working it. Also, hotels are targeting their lobby F&B for their distinct demographics, and if you look at the photo here, that's from Grape and Grain at the Phoenician in Scottsdale. And what it is it's kind of a high-end Dean and DeLuca prepared foods, cheese, wine, it's very elaborate, very high-end. And that's the five-star, five-diamond clientele that goes to that hotel. And so it's been very successful for them. And another aspect of that is that so unique that it's attracting locals as well as in-house guests, and that's a template that we're seeing as well for the niche lobby F&B, is that it's drawing from the surrounding community as well as the in-house guests.
Jeanne, you want to jump in and share some of the opportunities you see and talk about some of the webinar topics we have on the screen?
Sure, yeah. Well, some on-trend ideas to get your team's creative juices flowing could be talking about upscale bar food. I mean, we could talk about menus. We could talk about presentation in regard to small plates. But more and more customers are choosing to eat in the bar in many hotels, and so that's just extremely on trend, and there would be a lot of interest. And display case food and beverage merchandising for higher sales. That is grab and go is a huge trend, and it really is along the entire continuum from luxury all the way down to limited service or select service hotels. So, but again, some of those people don't know how to merchandise as well as they should. Also, food and beverage, what every hotel should know about having the right foods and beverages in their lobby grab and go area. That's just that would be of great interest, especially if you have trend information that you can present as an expert in your particular area. Or another interesting area is packaging, going green through innovative packaging options, and packaging just for basic grab and go. That's self-evident, but also lobbies are becoming the new sources for many hotels' room service sales, and things are being packaged up and taken back to the room. So or in the morning carried out. If somebody's leaving the hotel for the day to visit customers. So, but this is just a small sample of some of the directions we could go in.
Great. Well, Michael, I know during our run-throughs on this, you talked about smaller kitchens. So let's bring that up as the fourth trend and turn it back to you.
Sure. Another trend you're going to see into the next year are the kitchen footprint is just going to continue getting smaller, especially with new build hotels, with very few exceptions, but also for hotels that are undergoing extensive renovations in the back of the house. Real estate's expensive, and so the kitchens are getting smaller, but that's also due to the fact that the technology is there for kitchen equipment to be multi-purpose, multi-use, and you can have a smaller kitchen footprint and have a smaller staff working back there as well. And because of that technology, like we touched on at breakfast, the limited service and select service hotel category is able to have menus and have hot food where they didn't before, and they may not even have an actual kitchen with an HVAC overhead. They can use a series of combi ovens or something along those lines. And with these smaller kitchens and the multi-purpose kitchen equipment, you can produce room service, banquets to a certain extent, and the restaurant all out of the same kitchen. There's actually a kitchen in Hawaii, a property in Hawaii that does almost everything out of their poolside kitchen. It's pretty amazing. That's a great example of where this is heading.
Jeanne, how about talking about some of the webinar topics around the opportunities for this?
Sure. We thought that ideas like simple, easy prep menu items that any employee can prepare, because the small footprint kitchens, or sometimes they're called kitchens of one, are designed so that just that sort of thing can happen in a hotel, very, very labor saving. Or new cooking technologies that save money. It's just there's just a lot out there, and hotel F&B professionals who are buying and specifying this equipment want to know about that, but oftentimes they don't get the opportunity to attend industry events and trade shows. Storage techniques that reduce costs and save time and ensure basic product inventory and food safety best practices would be of great interest, or even how to outfit a smaller footprint kitchen. That is something that it is a relatively new phenomenon with the recent technology out there, and hoteliers are not. Some of them they need advice and guidance.
Well, speaking of advice and guidance, let's go to our final trend, and then we'll begin to put this all together. So, Michael, the fifth trend that we have to talk about, and by the way, folks, we winnowed this down from about a dozen trends just to give you some food for thought. So, Michael?
Okay, and our fifth trend is bottom-up F&B. When I say bottom-up, that means from the customer up as opposed to top-down, which would be from the chef down. And this is something that has been catching on as well, and you'll see more of it into the next year. The room for error with a restaurant concept as far as whether or not it's going to work is not what it was just a few years ago. And so if a concept isn't working, some hotels have taken it to the street, so to speak, and they've canvassed the community, they've canvassed their guests, they ask them, what would you like to see, what concept would you like to see, how much would you pay for it, and that's been very successful. Probably the best example would be Tiburon Grill, which is at a Larkspur property in Tiburon, California, where they did just this. They took a completely failed restaurant concept and reinvented it from the bottom up. And Starwood has done this at the corporate level as well with their Westin and Sheraton menus. Those are customer-driven. They're based on sales metrics. And the corporate chef at Starwood told me that chefs love to put things on the menu like foie gras and caviar, but if nobody's buying it, then it makes no sense to do that. And this isn't the case for every hotel, obviously, but it's the case for a lot of. It's an easy solution for a lot of properties.
So if we look at some of the webinar topics that we came up with to present, Jeanne, why don't you give us a kind of a high-level overview of these four topics here, and then we're going to go talk about what the audience reach would be and how this all works.
Sure. Well, I just want to say in my inbox I received an email just yesterday from a vendor who has a seafood usage survey results from a 2010 chef survey, and they sent that along with recipes. And I just looked at that and thought that could be a great event to bring it alive and present the findings as well as the recipes and perhaps a hotel customer that they creatively work with. It would be a perfect example. And some other ideas as well are healthful versus comfort food, creating a room service menu for both, because hotels struggle with this because they have business travelers, for example, who, business travel is stressful and those road warriors are really working hard, and they come home, they come back to their hotel, so to speak, home for the evening, and they some of them want a burger and fries, and then some of them want to really remain on their diets and go down to the workout room and then get a piece of salmon for dinner. So seafood, identifying and purchasing from sustainable sources. But that doesn't have to be seafood. It can be just about any product now because that's just such a hot topic. And then you can take it completely opposite and go into banquet and catering and do buffets to impress meeting planners. And that's important because meeting planners are responsible for bringing in a very large amount of revenues into hotels through conventions and conferences. And then finally, just another idea we thought of was saving through cross-utilizing menu items. Cross-utilizing, if you have a menu item, this is how hotels buy. They evaluate a menu item based on its ability to be used across day parts and across outlets. So if you have, let's say you're a tortilla manufacturer and you can use the tortillas in a breakfast wrap, but then also use the tortillas in a soup at a banquet lunch, that's going to get a lot of attention. And if you can show that your products do that, people are really interested in that. So there are myriad possibilities here. These are just brainstorm examples from out in the marketplace, but it's really a wide open field with room for a lot of creativity and thought leadership.
Well, speaking of which, this is, I think, one of the exciting highlights to bring to the audience before we go in how we can deliver it is really what the potential webinar audience reaches by taking your expertise as the trusted advisor in this space, being able to provide guidance. Let's talk a little bit about the type of entities that we're able to reach.
Sure. Well, there are over 25,000 hotels, resorts, and casinos in the United States and Canada that have some kind of significant food and beverage service, either full service or select service or limited service properties that are serving a full hot and cold complimentary breakfast, all the way up to full service properties. 2/3 of these properties here do high volume banquet and catering. But this is a lot of properties, 25,000 different specific units. They're tough to reach with your sales force or your reps. 165 chains and management companies, such as Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, Intercontinental's Hotel Group, Starwood. These are the people that are specifying at the corporate level. That's important for certain types of menus, not banquet and catering so much because that's very customer driven, but limited service, select service breakfast programs, a lot of work is done at the corporate headquarters, but these are big chains and high volume. And then over 1,700 in our database, we reach over 1,700 different titles in culinary, purchasing, all the different food and beverage management areas, and general management, and that can range from procurement to CEOs, and that's important because there are a lot of titles for you to get to, a lot of influencers here, and it also means that food and beverage is more important than ever. Over the last decade, it's grown in importance for the hotel industry in general because it offers an experiential factor for the guests. It uses the hotel space, especially lobby space, as Michael referred to earlier, more effectively and more profitably. And overall, food and beverage is just is profitable if it's done right. And additionally, that's just our database. Plus, you have WebAttract's additional 185,000 contacts that are also matched to this demographic.
Thanks, Jeanne. Great. Now I'm going to work into what are the deliverables, how do you get started, and then we're going to start taking some questions. So just to give you a brief background on who WebAttract is and what we do, we help companies in the B2B space, whether they're global brands, many which you can recognize, or emerging brands that really want to reach a new audience, not their existing audience, but a new audience, and get new eyeballs to attend a webinar so their sales teams can have more opportunities to close business. And we use our experience and expertise in webinars, from audience recruitment, delivering the production, doing post-webinar sales support. And what we actually bring to you is a roadmap. And we have a roadmap for managing the webinar lifecycle because it can be a daunting task. And as Jeanne said, our job is to make it as easy on you and your staff so you can look forward to results. And the three things that we bring are a proven methodology, a set of best practices and metrics to make sure that we not only can measure results but give you predictable outcomes. And we do that by managing what we call all of the puzzle. And if you look at this puzzle here, there's everything on here from identifying the right audience to developing compelling invitations, which we work with you on. In addition to the 185,000 contacts for this market, we have a proprietary database of 27 million contacts. We also blend traditional lists with social media. We use a lot of social media to go out and get people to attend webinars. We provide the project management. We help you shape your messages. We help coach you. We help make sure that when it's webinar day, the sound is working. We host everything, and you're ready to go to have a successful webinar. And we do that over a typical 8-week implementation plan where we have a series of meetings and we work with you to identify all the moving parts and what needs to be done, who does what and when, and we document that on a work plan, such as you see here. And we identify all the important steps, let you know in advance what are the key milestones, what do you need to have delivered by when, and we track that for you. Now, we're all about metrics and analytics and delivering predictable outcomes. So just to give you a frame on this, we usually use a targeted demographic of about 50,000 that meet your particular area. We know that of that, 33% or 250 will actually register for the webinar. And we guarantee that. We know that of those 250, a minimum of 40% or more will actually attend. And we also know to make sure that happens, we do a lot of pre-calls before the webinar. Most of you got a phone call from us, just a gentle reminder that the webinar is today to make sure that you had your calendar free. We also know that 80% of people who sign up for webinars are looking to have a informational experience, not a sales pitch, but to hear what you promised. We also know that if we do that right, that 90% of the audience will hold through the beginning of the questions and answers. And as Jeanne said, a marvelous post-webinar bounce is from on-demand viewings. Many of you have asked, will there be slides? Will there be a viewing? Yes, you'll be able to have that and look at that for additional viewing. We also provide very detailed stats. This is just a snapshot of a recent event that we did, but the point is you will get very detailed information on who registered, what was the source of the lead, what was their attendance interest, so on and so forth, down to the individual level. And we also use a lot of interactive polls, and we're going to do one final poll, but these polls are really great to increase engagement of the audience and get real-time feedback. It's very helpful. This is one we did for a client where they wanted to know from the audience how many were interested in learning about new solutions for marketing my business. And as you can see, they had an 83% response rate with terrific input on what they wanted to learn. And what this means is when you go and have a conversation with them after the webinar, you've got something in common to talk about. We also monitor the real-time attendance, so we know from where we speak where the interest is. In this particular webinar, we had about 360 people online through most of it. We also do surveys. This is great to get quantitative and qualitative information on how the webinar met your audience's expectations. Terrific feedback. You find out what they're interested in and what you could do better. And also on the on-demand viewings, we provide these types of reports. And as you can see from this one here, this was a webinar done back in May, and this is only tracking through August, but you can see all the different post on-demand viewings. And what's really interesting about the reports we provide is we let you know from the people that went to the on-demand viewing, were they someone who registered but did not attend? Did they attend the webinar? Or are they a fresh new lead? And if you look at this here, 62% of this report are fresh new leads, which means the webinar has gone viral. So if you put this all together, the way Hotel F&B and WebAttract look at the benefits for sponsors are basically these 5 areas. Since we provide everything, it's a single vendor solution. It's very cost effective. In fact, we believe, and from our experience, that being able to leverage the web or the internet really provides you with a cost of lead that's 50% less than in-person seminars. And as Jeanne said, not everybody can get in on an airplane or a car today to attend a meeting. They want to get information. If they can get it at their desktop and it's meaningful, they'll tune in. We also have proprietary methodologies for production, for building lists, as I said, blending it with social media and audience recruitment. And you should have the confidence that webinars are a collaborative process. We love working with clients. Every client is different. Every subject matter is different. And our goal is to make sure that we're able to help you develop content that stimulates the audience's curiosity to want to have a conversation with you after the webinar. And again, we're totally results driven. Everything is done with a definable ROI for predictable outcomes. And what that all rolls up to is providing you an opportunity to grow your top line revenue for 2011, to promote your thought leadership and your brand awareness. Now, we could talk about any one of these topics for hours, and we encourage you, and we hope that some of you will be interested enough to want to have a conversation and we can drill down in it. But if you'd like more information, on the WebAttract website, there's a lot of complimentary resources. We actually have a whole set of tutorials that are free. They're on demand. Everything from what you need to know to manage the webinar lifecycle from start to finish, how to recruit an audience, making sure that you have the best internet audio, how you use social media to enhance your webinar presence, how you mine data and use analytics, how you create post-sales opportunities, and even how to recruit, coach, develop, and mentor webinar speakers. So we encourage you to take that. Well, we're just about where we need to be in the program, and we'd love to ask for your input on one final poll. And I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. And that poll is, which of the following would you be most interested in exploring to drive your top line revenue goals for 2011? Would it be banquet and catering, breakfast menus and buffets, lobby food service, kitchens and back of the house, menus for all hotel outlets? If you'd go ahead and give us what you would be interested in, we'd sure love to get that feedback. And then I'm going to call Michael and Jeanne back up to the virtual panel because we've got quite a few questions here we want to get to, and we do want to respect your time. and I'll share the results with everybody. And then we'll bring back Michael and Jeanne. So it looks like 50% of you are most interested in breakfast menus and buffets, 14% lobby food service, 14% kitchens and back of the house, and 14% menus for all hotel outlets. Well, thank you very much for that. And now, Michael and Jeanne, if you'll come back to the podium, before we start taking the questions, any comments on the results of that survey that you'd like to share?
I'm surprised that, I'm not surprised about the breakfast aspect of it because that's, it's a huge area in hotel food service. I would have thought that both breakfast and banquets would be equal. Interesting.
Michael, any comments?
Yeah, same thing. I thought there would be the more interest in banquets and catering.
Okay. Well, let's start with.
But breakfast is a good second. it's a good follow-up.
Well, good. See how that instant feedback helps. So here's a question for you, Michael. You mentioned case stories. Can you elaborate on what you mean by case stories?
Well, case studies would go. It's sort of an elaboration on the research that we do to develop our stories. And so we go directly to the hoteliers and the chefs and talk to them and sort of pick their brains on what's happening with their operation. And that's how we develop these trends. And so over the course of the year, they become sort of a case study or a case story. And our stories actually are kind of like case studies. Well, because we focus on results and what made those results as opposed to just talking about the idea of it.
Exactly, and I know from the work we do with webinars that audiences really want case studies, and what they want is beyond who the company is, but they want to know what were their business or operational challenges, what were their options, what did they implement, what was their solution, and as you said, the results, but what they really want to hear is lessons learned and what are the best practices and how do you get started. And that's what a webinar really brings. It brings that live sense of connecting someone who's actually done it and can speak from experience. So thanks for elaborating on that. Jeanne, here's a question. Can I have our corporate chef speak about our products?
Yes, I think that'd be great because this person probably works with many of your customers and would be able to demonstrate the products very effectively. Ideally, a corporate chef would have on the webinar a customer to either interview and discuss your product and how it's being used, in a real, case study again, type way, because people really like that peer-to-peer information and want to know what other peers are doing.
Right, and I think it would be a good thing to add that if there was a situation for the corporate chef to speak, that with your guidance and thought leadership and our expertise in putting webinars together, we would figure out how to optimize and bring out the best message and the best way to package it. So I'm glad you answered that. And also, here's another question. Can our national sales manager speak about several customer stories instead of just having one customer speak? Jeanne, I'll let you take that one.
Well, it's an interesting question, and I would want to explore that more with the customer. I would suggest that, generally speaking, though, that we not have a salesperson on the presentation, unless you take a very consultative approach and also incorporate a customer that would have a major share of voice during the webinar. If it was just impossible to incorporate a customer, if there were a consultative approach taken, and you were showcasing some very valuable resources, whether it be research or a video or recipe ideas, it might work out. Well, it just depends.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, and just as an insight for the audience, that people come to this to get information. They really don't want to be sold, and they know if they're being sold. And if we can have a case study done by a client or a happy customer or a partner, that has a profound impact on credibility, because they will be able to sing your praises without you having to do it. And I would agree with you that keeping it more towards people that are actually working in the particular area outside of sales is a good way to go. So thanks for that, Jeanne. Well, here's an interesting question. How carefully can we target the audience? We really want chefs and culinary decision makers, or hotels that don't have a coffee mandate, or only hotels over 200 rooms. Jeanne, you want to talk about how your database can be segmented to that, and then we'll talk about what we can do to augment that?
Sure. Well, our database can be broken out in a variety of ways. We can break it out by hotel brand, hotel segment, hotel size, by rooms, number of rooms, region, industry title, just to name the major ways. So we can really get quite specific on your behalf to really zero in on the target within the hotel market that you need to reach.
Okay, and actually, here's an interesting question that just came in perfect on the heels of what you said. What type of webinar presentation would you recommend for a distributor of wine?
Wow, that's interesting. I might talk about.
How about we broaden it a little to wine and liquor?
Either wine or liquor, or, Michael, we did that very interesting video with Fernando Bateta at the Park Hyatt, Chicago, and how he used wine tastings as an interactive, entertaining, and educational meeting break for attendees. And it was quite compelling. I think we have his video on our website. He actually provided a video of him actually executing one of these events. And a program like that, for example, hotels are always looking for new meeting break ideas. So something like that. Now that's very, very specific. We could talk about setting up a wine station at a banquet and catering event, for example. Or didn't we do a story on Lowe's where they had selected 5 specific red wines and 5 specific white wines by the glass?
And from a liquor standpoint, you could also have the same sort of idea with cocktails and cocktail making for groups.
Oh yeah, especially weddings and or business groups that want a theme.
Well, great. Here's a question. What kind of list am I going to get, and how drilled down will it be? My sales reps have lots of leads to follow up on already. It's tough to get them to call the ones they have. We are very aware of that. Well, the kind of list that you're going to get is a very detailed set of analytics covering who the registrant is, what they wanted to learn, what industry they're in, what title they're in. In some cases, their phone number is provided, what geography they're in, and if they attended the webinar, what their interests were on the webinar. So that gives you some basic interest. But if you do find yourself in a situation where your sales reps are not able to focus on the follow-up, WebAttract and Hotel F&B does offer a service for post-webinar voice prospecting, where we will actually call everybody who registered and or attended and just make sure they were pleased with the webinar, if there's anything we can do. And if they're open to having a conversation with the sponsor, we'll set that up. And we typically get about 10 or 15% of those to convert. So for that particular situation, we can help you there. Well, Jeanne, I think we're just about running to give everybody a final thank you and some final housekeeping. So I'd like to ask you if you have any closing comments for our audience, and then we'll give them information on how to get a recording and everything.
Okay, great. Well, just very simple. We appreciate all of you, the members of our audience, and also our partners at WebAttract. We've tried to make the event relevant, interesting, and most importantly, to stimulate new ideas for you and open up new ways of thinking about the use of these events. So we would like to work with you. We hope that we get the opportunity to speak after today about your particular goals, and thank you, and have a wonderful day and a great weekend.
Well, Jeanne, thank you, and thank you, Michael. And we're just about at that time, and we really want to thank you all for joining us today. And as I said at the top of the webinar, really hope you found it of value, and you'll want to have a conversation with us on how we can help you achieve your top line revenue goals for 2011. Special thanks to our logistics producer, Patty Van Hooser, who makes all this happen behind the scenes. And as mentioned, for those questions we couldn't get answered on air, we promise to get back to you with a response, and you'll soon be receiving an email with a link to download a copy of today's webinar for your own on-demand viewing. And finally, you will be receiving a short survey at the end of the webinar, and we'd sure love to have your feedback. This is your moderator and one of your hosts, Mike Agron, along with the rest of the team at Hotel F&B Magazine, saying thank you again and have a great weekend, and bye for now.